Hey guys, welcome to today's video. This is going to be a different one for me. I don't think I've ever really filmed a story time type video on my channel before. Usually I will try to do like a get ready with me style video, and those are just so hard for me to film. I try to do get ready with me style videos a lot. I have filmed probably about a dozen, and they just never make their way to my channel because I just feel like they're too scatterbrained. They're all over the place. I spend a million hours blending because I'm trying to talk at the same time. So I really want to share this with you guys today. I did attempt it as a get ready with me, like I said, but it didn't work out. So here I am with my makeup completely finished. I hope it's not too boring for you to just sit here and watch me talk at you, but I just really feel like this is something that I need to share, and this is something that I need to do. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and jump into it. So what I want to talk to you guys about is my anxiety and my hypochondria. That is the key word, my hypochondria. Like RawBeautyKristi said in her video, I feel like anxiety is such a loose term. And while I'm not trying to invalidate anyone's mental illness or how they feel, there are, I truly believe, different levels of anxiety, so to speak. I would say that my anxiety and my panic attacks have definitely been at a 10. And I'm going to dive into all of that and share this story with you guys. But just to kind of lay it down for context, like I am clinically diagnosed. I have been struggling with this since I was probably about 6 years old, maybe even earlier. I don't know. My memory doesn't go that far back, but I definitely have memories in my life of where I have had panic attacks, panic, anxiety, anxiousness. Where do I begin? Let's kind of rewind way back in time to a moment, I believe, when I was about, I want to say I was probably in like second grade. My dad remembers this story too. I struggled with acid reflux really bad. I would have stomach aches all the time. It probably had something to do with me just being like a nervous person, but I did go through a whole bunch of tests, and it did conclude at that time when I was younger that I had acid reflux. My diet as a 6-year-old was rice and chicken breast. No joke. I don't really know how many 6-year-olds really enjoy eating rice, chicken breasts, but that was me. It was really all I could hold down. Anything outside of that would really tear my stomach up. So basically, I just had a very bland diet because of my stomach. So obviously going to school and having anxiousness and having anxiety at such a young age triggered the acid. It would probably cause the acid production, and it would just agitate what was already going on and make it 10 times worse. So anyways, I remember in second grade, my dad or my mom and my dad would come to school during lunch to kind of check on me because I was a very sensitive, very shy person. Let me tell you, the shyest person. Like I was not loud. I never acted out. I didn't even throw tantrums. I was just never that kid. I was so even keeled and just flatline. Very quiet person. But my parents would come and check on me, and they would see how I was doing. They would bring me lunch. They would always pack me a lunch because obviously I couldn't eat what the school was serving because I would get very sick. So I remember one time my dad said he saw me and I was visibly upset. He could see it on my face, and he asked me if I wanted to go home. And basically what I would have said then in my current language would have been, hell fucking yes, I want to go home. School was so hard. I just never liked being away from home. It made me so uncomfortable. It gave me anxiety. And I remember, I want to say for second and third grade, I was homeschooled, and I also had a tutor for one of those years. So I missed out about 2 years of elementary school because of my stomach issues and the anxiety and panic that it would cause. Laying it out for context, as you can see, this is something that I have struggled with for a very long time. I have a crazy memory. I'm surprised I can even remember that far back, but I totally can. Fast forward to high school. Obviously, as I grew older, I got a better grip on things. I did take medication. I remember the first antidepressant that I was put on was Zoloft, and I was also prescribed Ativan for my panic and anxiety. And let me tell you, without Ativan, some days I don't even know how I would have even made it through school or made it through any days because my anxiety levels, and I shouldn't even say anxiety, my panic attacks were like up here. Now, the symptoms that I would get from my panic attacks were severe. They would mimic a stroke. Sometimes they would mimic like what a heart attack would feel like. If you were being like asphyxiated, like my chest would just seize up. I would feel like I couldn't breathe. My heart would pound. And then because of all of that, I would essentially feel like my fingertips buzzing, my feet, my arms. I mean, legitimately, it's almost like being on like some crazy drug. I mean, I have never tried any crazy drugs, but I can only imagine that being out of your mind like that and feeling so out of your body, that's exactly what it is. It was like an out of body experience. Like my physical body was here, but like my outer being and my emotions and my soul and everything were like out here, like somewhere else, like looking in, and it felt like doom, just like the worst thing ever. And this would actually happen to me as I got older. Obviously, it got worse, and because I became more aware and I could understand it and I knew what it was, it happened frequently. So eventually, as I got old enough, I was put onto medication. And like I said, without that Ativan though, wow, things would have been a lot worse. So I just want to say too that if you are struggling, don't ever feel ashamed if you have to ask for help, if you have to explore medications, because there were times in my life that without them, honestly, I don't know what I would have done. I would kind of go off and on with these medications. The antidepressant, obviously, I was very steady with and had to be very consistent with, but they would stop working. And I'll tell you that I have tried Zoloft, Prozac, Paxil, Lexapro, Celexa. I have also tried some of the other benzodiazepine type drugs outside of Ativan. I have tried clonazepam. It was just constantly trying to get a grip on this. So let's talk about high school again. So high school was, again, like I said, a little bit more unique. I got a better hold on things. I was able to manage things. I was in a good place with medication, but there would be moments where the medication wasn't enough and I would have to miss school. And thank God, my parents, if you're watching this right now, I am so lucky that I had such understanding and loving parents, because let me tell you, without that, I'm sure it would have been a lot harder. Kids hate school. It's no secret. I mean, not all kids, I shouldn't say that, but most kids don't like school. They don't want to go. They want to leave. They'd rather hang out with their friends. They want to skip. At least I did, but that's another story. But my parents understood that I just wasn't trying to just not be at school. I hated school and it was never for me. I've always had an issue with like authority, but again, that's besides the point. They knew that what I was going through was legit. It could have easily been on the other end of the spectrum where they were like, just get your ass out of bed. You're going to fucking school today. So thank you for that. Huge shout out to my parents for being supportive, and they're still very supportive and understanding to this day. But my friends weren't so understanding. I had people talking about me behind my back if I missed a day or if I was gone for multiple days because of my anxiety, my panic attacks, my hypochondria. You know, people would say, well, she doesn't want to be at school. She's a slacker. She's this, she's that. And yes, like I said, I hated school with a passion for many, many reasons. I mean, that really hurt. I mean, that was something that was very hurtful and really brought me down. People that I thought were like my best friends were saying these horrible things behind my back and not being empathetic or understanding at all. Now, yeah, granted, we're dealing with 15, 16, 17-year-olds, and anxiety and panic attacks, and especially hypochondria, is not something that I feel is very widely understood. People can't really have a grasp on it. And like RawBeautyKristi said, unless you have been through it, you don't understand. Like, you just can't understand. You can feel for someone, you can have that empathy for someone, but unless you have had a full-blown panic attack, there is no way to like realistically describe it to you. You can't see it. It is all in here. It is all descriptions of feelings and verbs and nouns and all that kind of stuff. You kind of have to feel it to really, truly understand it. School obviously was always somewhat of a struggle for me. I never did well as a student. I didn't get the greatest grades at all. In fact, I did very poorly in school. It just wasn't for me. I knew right away that college was never going to be a thing for me. And I've talked about this before, but even in high school, I knew that I wanted to get into makeup and aesthetics. I graduated in 2004. Makeup is nowhere near what it is now. I wanted to get into makeup though, and I had school counselors and just kind of my peers around me too saying, well, you'll never get anywhere with that. That will never be a thing. How wrong are all of you now? But anyways, I got out of school. So the summer after, I'd say late summer after high school, 2005, a lot of my friends, 90% of my friends, I would say, went off to college. I did not. Life was very different for me at that point. And along with that came more panic attacks. My hypochondria took a turn for the worse. Now, I don't even remember if I've already explained this, so I am sorry if I'm backtracking, but hypochondria is really a fear of health issues, really. It's being convinced that there is something severely, badly wrong with you. So, example, for context, someone who catches the common cold, they're just like, meh, I got a cold. Me, I fear pneumonia. I fear the cold turning into something else. I fear that like I won't be able to breathe, or that it will just turn into this severe illness. I'll have to take a medication that I will have a severe reaction to. And again, I will go more into why this whole thing kind of developed for me. But that summer, you know, as a distraction, I was 18. I was able to vote for the first time. You know, it was just one of those things where I was like, yep, I am diving into politics full blown. This is what I'm going to do. I want to say, I can't even, maybe it was 2004, 2005. I'm sorry, somewhere between 2004 and 2005. It was either that summer right after high school or the following year. I can't quite remember. But like I said, my hypochondria took a turn for the absolute worst. And I'm about to share stuff with you that I have not shared with a lot of people. It's going to be very difficult for me. I am extremely nervous. My hypochondria centered around my heart, essentially. I was so obsessed with my heart rate. I was convinced that my heart was beating too fast. I was convinced that my heart was beating too slow. I was convinced that I had blood pressure issues, that I was running a fever constantly. I was afraid to fall asleep at night because I was afraid that in my sleep, something would happen to my heart, that it would beat too quickly. I would go into atrial fibrillation, that I would have this severe heart murmur. My heart would skip beats. All of this stuff just manifested, and it got to the point where I was up all night long, like all night long. I barely slept. And it was so weird. There was something about the night that like closing my eyes and going to bed at night was like the hardest thing. I slept better during the day. Something about sunlight and there being light was comforting and was a better environment for me to sleep. So essentially I was probably sleeping, you know, starting at 5:30, 6 a.m. when it was finally starting to be sunrise until maybe noon, 1 o'clock. And then I would be up all the way until then. So obviously sleep is imperative. I mean, I was getting no movement, no exercise. And eventually what happened is that I was pretty much housebound for 3 months straight. 3 solid months I was stuck in my house. The second I would get into my mom's car, the second I would step out the door, the hypochondria, the anxiety kicked in, the heartbeat, the ringing in my ears, the numbness in the fingertips, the tingling in the feet. It was just bam, right there, front and center. I could not kick it. And at that point too, Ativan wasn't even helping. It just wasn't doing anything. So I became homebound for pretty much 3 months. I remember doing over the phone therapy sessions with my therapist, my psychiatrist, obviously trying different medications. And in the span of this, I remember my doctor prescribing me a medication. Well, back then they would give you samples in the doctor's office until your insurance would approve it. Now everything is so extremely computerized and I sound like a dinosaur, but that's kind of what they would do. I know they still do that now, but it was like a longer process. So there was like this new version, I can't remember of it, like Prozac or Paxil, that was like a slow release. And so she started me on that with the sample medication, but it turned out that my insurance didn't cover that. So I had to go to like the standard form. Well, if only I knew what I knew now, she put me on too high of a dose. So I remember one night I started the medication that was different than the sample she gave me because like I said, my insurance didn't cover it. And I started this new medication and I got tired, took a nap, woke up, got on my computer, played Sims, another thing that was one of my vices to kind of help me and distract me and get me through this horrible anxiety that I was dealing with and this panic and this hypochondria. But I remember sitting there, all of a sudden, like my neck felt stiff and I just thought, meh, whatever. Oddly enough, I wrote it off. Normally something like that would be triggering my anxiety, but I just kind of wrote it off. And then all of a sudden, like it was like, I felt kind of twitchy and I finally thought, okay, something is wrong here. And this is kind of how you know, like as a hypochondriac now, and as someone who's very anxious, you learn the difference between someone that's actually wrong and what is anxiety. Because if something feels off and you're not anxious or anything at all, then it's like, maybe something's not right. And oddly enough, at that moment, that's exactly what was going on. I was like, well, I don't feel anxious right now. I don't feel panicky, but like my body, I'm having these twitches. And I looked down and like my hands were swelling and I was like, what the hell? And I went and told my mom, I'm like, I can't get my rings off my finger. Like my hands are swollen. My neck is just really tight and twitchy. So she's like, all right, you know, she had to stay calm because if she were to freak out, obviously it would have spiraled me at that point then into a panic attack because again, my hypochondria was so centered around my health and my anxiety was so centered around my health. I remember going to the emergency room and I told them about the medication and they kind of sat me in a room and they were like, okay, just hang tight, hang out here for a while. They didn't really hook me up into any machines or anything, but the doctor would come in periodically and he would check my fingers, he'd check my ring, and slowly but surely, I was there for probably like 3 hours. The swelling went down and I started to feel better. Like it took 3 hours for this to settle down. He walked in and he goes, well, you're looking a lot better. Are you feeling better? And I said, yes. And basically what he told me, and I was justified in how I felt, he told me that essentially I was on too high of the medication. If you're not really sure how antidepressants work, they all kind of work to regulate serotonin in the brain. Now, I have my thoughts on antidepressants and I have a lot of feelings on them because I have taken pretty much all of them, but that is a whole other subject. But essentially, based on that medication that she started me on, the samples, because they were slow release, she just went ahead and full-blown prescribed me the generic insurance-approved version of this medication, and it was just too much. Like my body, there was no adjustment period. I should have started on something lower because of what I had already been taking for 2 to 3 weeks previously. So as you can imagine now, I have a new problem and it developed my fear of medication. So that is where all of that started for me as well. And trust me, that opened a whole new can of worms. Now I pretty much don't take any medication. I have extreme fears. I have had reactions to medications that most people do not. For example, prednisone, I can't take that, which is what's given for swelling. It causes tachycardia. My heart rate jumps to 160 beats per minute, so I have an allergy to that. I can't take amoxicillin or penicillin because I developed an allergy to that as well. I have just had so many unfortunate run-ins with modern medicine that not good for someone who has what I have, the hypochondria. It's horrible. I have had probably dozens of emergency room visits because of my hypochondria, being convinced that I had a blood clot in my leg, a blood clot in my lung, pancreatic issues. I can't even tell you guys how many times I visited the ER because of my mental health and having hypochondria. Obviously, this doesn't happen anymore. And it's kind of funny because those reactions to medications were almost like a blessing in disguise. They kind of helped me learn that going to the doctor all the time is not a good solution because they are going to try to treat you based on your symptoms. They have to take you seriously. They can't just say, well, you've got hypochondria, you don't have a low back problem, you don't have this, you don't have that. They have to treat you based on what you are feeling and if there is enough symptoms present to justify that. And so I kind of learned that going to the doctor for every little thing I felt, which by the way, it wasn't just ER visits, we're talking doctor visits as well, can really do more harm than good. And that is something that I learned. Back to not leaving my house for 3 months. Obviously, I got my medication adjusted, but it took a long time. I want to say it was like August, September, October, and then finally into November, it just kind of sorted itself out. That's the weird thing with any of these mental illnesses. They are just a roller coaster. 1 minute is horrible. You are up here, it is pure death, you feel like shit. And then the next minute it's down here and then everything is completely normal. Flatlined, you feel good. Obviously this got better, but I don't really know why it got better, to be honest with you. It just stopped one day and it was the best day of my life. I was so thankful for that. It was a rocky road. I remember my friends, they were aware, the ones that didn't go to college and that were still in my hometown, they were aware of what was going on. And these were the people that were a little bit more supportive of me, I guess. They understood a little bit more. They never gave up on asking me to go out or to go out to eat or anything like that. They would always say, we really, really miss you, whenever you're comfortable. I really hope that, things get better. I remember going to Denny's one time and it was like my first time out with my friends since the whole thing happened of being basically stuck in my house for 3 months straight because I had such bad anxiety. There is a lot more to this story. I could dive into my divorce and my ex-husband because there's a lot of how my anxiety and my hypochondria rolled into that. But that is definitely a story for another time. But I just wanted to share this with you guys because mental health is such a tricky thing. Everybody is different. We have different makeup. We have different DNA. We have different needs. We have different ways of coping with things. There is never a one size fits all. Same thing with medications. There just isn't. Everything is so different and unique to each person and how we cope and how we deal with things. My thing is that I am super hard on myself. I have extremely high expectations, which is something that happened later on in life. I was a fly by the seat of my pants person in high school. I hated school, like I said. I just felt like I didn't need it. I'd be fine. I was a person where I was like, meh, I'll deal with things as they come. And let me tell you, that was a lesson to be learned because I have been bit in the ass by many, many things that I said, meh, I'll deal with it later. Something that I've learned and kind of almost turned me into type A. I'm not a full-on type A type person, but you know when you go into a job interview, for example, and they want to know your weakness. And so the trick to that, obviously, is it's always something that is a weakness, but is also a strength at the same time. And this is actually a very true answer for me. This is just not me kissing someone's ass or me trying to get someone's job or someone to hire me. It is a very true weakness, but it's also a strength. Like, I am so hard on myself if I don't get something done to a certain expectation, if I can't learn something fast enough, if I can't get to my goals when I want to get to them. I am just like, boom, 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 get things done. And I think anxiety and slight OCD maybe feeds into that a bit because it's like, you just want to get things done. You don't want the anxiety. You want it cleared off of your plate. You don't want to panic about it anymore. And so I've kind of developed into a person that was very different from who I once was. That kind of ties into with YouTube. And if some of you know, you probably follow me on Instagram, kind of had a little bit of a low point last night. I was on my Instagram stories going off about how I thought I would be farther than I am right now. And I have been on YouTube for almost 3 years. I have uploaded almost 300 videos. And sometimes it is hard that when you pour your heart and soul into something and you see that it's not reaching my subscribers, that is one thing that really kind of gets me, is that I work so hard and I can see the numbers and the stats, and I can see the number of people who are subscribed to me that are actually seeing my content. I've gotten messages from some of you that are my ride or dies, like, you don't miss any videos, and you'll say, what the hell? I didn't get a notification this time around. You know, you're like, what the fuck, YouTube? You know what I mean? And that is very frustrating. And don't even get me started on some of the stuff that I have seen from like the YouTube Academy, where they literally decide who gets notifications. Even if you have that notification bell turned on, they try to decide who is more likely to watch your video, and that's who gets the notification. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? If somebody is subscribed to me, hello, why are you making them take an extra step hitting a freaking bell button? It's like 2 subscriptions, right? Like, you have to hit subscribe and you have to hit the bell button. And even then, some of you don't even know I uploaded. So there is a lot of frustration. Don't get me wrong. I am so beyond grateful for the successes that I have had here. What YouTube has taught me, it is so much more than the numbers. But again, I do want to be successful at what I'm doing. I do want to have that gratification for putting all of my hard work into this, because I want you guys to see my content. I want somebody new to discover me and to feel inspired and to have them find this place that I have worked my ass off in building up, to find a community where we don't have hate here. My comment section is so incredibly positive. It is incredible. And I would love to have new people be able to find that and to be a part of it, because there is just so much freaking negativity in this world. I just kind of had a low moment. I was feeling kind of like, is this meant for me? And it's the trials and tribulations of really anything anyone wants to do. If you're a self-starter with something, it is very difficult some days to keep going. I know deep down that I'm never, ever, ever going to give up. Something in my gut tells me, girl, keep going. You would be insane to let this go. Like, do not do it. My best friend Sarah helps me. My sisters help me. My parents help me. My aunt helps me. My cousins help me. I do have a very good core group of people. My friend Ashley helps me. So many people, a positive group of people just building me up here, and that keep me going. And I want to thank you so, so much for that. It means the world to me, because if I didn't have that some days, I don't know where I would be. And trying to tackle my mental issues and a lot of the personal things I am battling right now, I'm real with all of you guys. I have problems just like everyone else. I don't make a ton of money from YouTube. All of the products that you see here on my channel, I purchase 99% of them. I've had a company send me a few things, which is insane. I mean, when Tarte reached out to me, that was just like, wow, like that was a moment. It's a lot. It's an investment. I'm not made of money. I do have money issues. I have issues with the house that I'm living in right now. It's a very old home. I barely have the means to keep that going. And this is by no means a sob story. I'm just trying to say that like I have struggles too, just like everybody else. And I do have those low moments. And I am so grateful. I have received messages since posting that from you guys on Twitter. I had people message me now on Instagram. And I think it is so sweet that I have people out there that genuinely give a shit and understand how I feel and look at me like a human and someone who is vulnerable and has issues as well. So I just want to thank you guys for that. This is definitely a to be continued story. I have a lot of other stories that I can share with you guys. If you enjoy videos like this, please be sure to comment down below and let's talk about this in the comments. Do you struggle with mental illness? Did this make you feel like you weren't alone? I definitely want to create a space where people don't feel alone. That's very important to me. Yeah, let's just talk about it in the comments. I want to thank you guys so much. If you made it to the end of this video, leave a heart emoji down in the comments. If you're not on a phone or you're not on a computer, or you don't have a heart emoji, just leave a little smiley face or something, letting me know that you made it to the end of this video. I really truly appreciate if you did, because it was kind of all over the place. I'm going to try to edit this very minimally. I don't want to do a lot of editing. I want it to just be very raw, and I just want to share it with you guys. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for listening. I think I might take a few days off, take a little bit of a break. I do want to do like a palette declutter video with you guys, or maybe just share my palette collection. Let me know which one you'd rather see. They're kind of the same thing, but let me know what style of video. And yeah, we will pick up where we left off. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching. It means the world to me. I love you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.